Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And today I've got Benjamin Bohman out of Las Vegas, and he is the Chief Technology Officer of Stratishield AI. We're going to hear all about what it is and what his company does. I'm really interested, and I've been experimenting with a lot of AI in my business this year, and really excited to bring him on. Ben, welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Yeah. And I think the experimentation of AI, that's the fun part of where we're at right now because not that AI is super new. It's been around for a bit, but we're still at a point with some of the new generative AI and some other tools that just this point of experimentation and conversation and even in implementation.
Yeah, talk about your journey, what you've done, and what Stratishield AI is, and we'll dive right in.
Absolutely. So I've been in the tech sector for 25 plus years. So I started at a young age, 21 years old. I was running for an international printing company. And so I've always been in technology. And then I got into sales as part of that because salespeople were having more fun. So I got into sales, went into engineering. Like I have a really diverse way of how I look at technology. And then eventually I wanted to start my own business, and not to get into the details of my whole journey, but I decided this January that I wanted to start a business. And obviously AI was the top. I feel like that's where everything's trending. And so really my business is focused around two things. It's AI and cybersecurity. And I think when you look at those two, there's a lot of similarities in those two areas, especially in what I call selection fatigue of companies. So when you're a business and you're trying to select an AI company or a security company, there's so many to choose from. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to help simplify that process. And I wanted to really get a good grasp on the cybersecurity community and the AI community and build this vendor ecosystem so that a business can come to me and be like, hey, this is what I need. Who's best? So I don't have to go out and select from 1,000 vendors. Who best fills my needs and my requirements? And I've done so. I feel like I've built one of the largest AI ecosystems that's in the country right now. And then finding out the second thing, and I didn't expect this, I have a lot, I'm working on, I won't say a lot, but several contracts where I help AI companies go to market and understand where do we fit, what's the demographic, psychographic, geographic, like all these things of how do we fit into it, and helping companies idealize and ideate where they fit into the market right now. So it goes in a couple different directions right now. It's a lot, but really focused around AI and cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, especially given healthcare hacks. And I know there's so many data security breaches. It'll be interesting to see how AI fits into all of this. What is the underlying premise of AI and cybersecurity? What's your USP? What can customers expect from Stratosphere AI?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple things. There's obviously, and I like to talk about the duality of man, right? The duality of technology, the good and bad, and AI plays perfectly to what this, where there's the good side of what AI is doing for cybersecurity. And then there's also this risk advancement and risks that AI is presenting to us. So the main thing is AI and cybersecurity right now, and we talk about that as in the framework of machine learning, is really a lot based around behavioral analytics and behavioral learning. So if you look at the old school way of cybersecurity, it was signature based. It's basically a 1-0 on off. It's either a virus or it's not a virus. Now we can't look at it that way anymore because now we have to look at the behaviors of what's happening on the network on the individual computer. So AI is able to process mass amounts of information and be able to say, hey, this computer is doing something weird, right? So we need to stop it or block it or pull it off. And I think that's really the main thing, where one of the main ways that AI is helping, and that's been doing it for about 5, 6 years now, maybe even 10 years, where it's looking at behavioral analytics. But that is further advancing in how accurate they're able to assess and look at behaviors. And then, of course, on the other side, the duality of the negativity, when you look at deep fakes and also the advancement of AI hackers and bad actors and everything, or at bad actors and hackers using AI, it's intensifying this already very volatile climate of cybersecurity, where now people are using AI to be able to use more advanced attack techniques. But mostly I see it in social engineering. When we used to get an email that was a virus, there would always be a misspelled word or several misspelled words. It was a mess. But now with generative AI, we're getting better phishing attacks. We're getting better messaging. We're getting clear messaging that looks like, oh, this could BS. I got an invoice to approve, and it looked like a legit real invoice. And I caught one thing with it was in an Excel format, which I didn't expect it to be, but the whole message was very well put together and articulated. So I think there's a lot of ways that, and even more than that, that it's causing more risk.
Really interesting. And so talking about just what steps should businesses take to ensure their AI systems are secure and effectively protect user data?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it's something that should be at the top of every business's concern, especially when you look at the use of generative AI. And I think what that is using proprietary models. And of course, a lot of those are going to use GP or Chat GPT, OpenAI might use Gemini or Claude or whatever that is. But you really have to control that environment and you really have to be able to monitor and control. So there's two ways that I look at that when I'm helping a business out with the generative AI or AI initiative in there as far as protecting the business. One is, again, having a proprietary private model that protects your data, but then also monitoring and looking at generative AI activity on your network. So in cybersecurity, we had this thing called shadow IT, right? And shadow IT was where you had people using all these random programs that they shouldn't be using on the network that were opening up big security holes into the network. And that was a problem. And T leaders need to be aware of that. It's the same with AI. So if your employees are using their own generative AI model and they're throwing all this stuff in there that could be in the PII, right? In the healthcare community or in financial PII, now you're at risk for a lot of stuff in healthcare and financial lawsuits, even. It gets very dangerous. I think coming up with your own, again, proprietary AI, but then also monitoring. And the other thing, what I say about having your own proprietary AI, this is why it's so important. If you don't provide your employees with a better way, a more efficient way of doing their work, they're going to go out and find it. And if they go out and find it, it might not be the most secure way. It just helps them with their job.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because it's almost you're describing this, it's like a game of chess and just thinking about the opposition and basically securing your data, which is very valuable and information. So talk about in terms of like AI for small and medium enterprises, what strategies can these small, medium-sized enterprises use to leverage AI effectively, competing with larger corporations?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the interesting things that's going to be coming out here in the next year or so is more AI that is focused on the small business. And it's when you talk about small to mid-size. So you have the enterprises that usually has the expertise in the in-house teams to be able to accomplish a lot. And again, that comparison with cybersecurity is very similar. So you have these enterprises that usually have the expertise to maybe they have their own SOC, maybe they have their own in-house expertise, their own CISSPs. They have all this expertise. But small business often gets left out. And in AI right now, I can see that a lot where a lot of these companies are focused for the large and enterprise business. So what I would say is with the smaller businesses is start again with a generative AI model that is protected and private to your environment. And first get that implemented. And then what I would say, and this is across the board, and it's one of the main conversations I have is AI readiness. Is your business even ready for AI? And I mention that because a lot of businesses have very, what I would call messy data. And at the end of the day, data is the lifeblood. It's the oxygen of AI, right? Data is the lifeblood and oxygen of AI. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're starting to clean our data. We're starting to organize our data. We're starting to label our data. And we're going through these methodologies that even a small business it's very affordable for a small business to do. So that when it comes time when AI, and we're going to see a lot of advancements in the next couple of years with new AI programs and new stuff coming out. But when these advancements start hitting to where it's relevant to the small business or even to the enterprise business, they can now implement it, but they can utilize all their data. Because what scares me, and I think should make what everyone should have a fear of is I'm implementing disparate AI systems throughout my business that don't talk to each other. That is so much mitigation of the power of what AI is. What we need AI to be able to talk to all the data, make informed decisions and informed recommendations off of all the data. But you can't do that if you're working in an uncontrolled and messy data environment. So I really, with small businesses, find out what's out there, but also let's get ready for when the really good technology starts coming out in AI that fits your business use case. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's really interesting because because from the healthcare space, a lot of the systems like you've got Epic and Cerner, and you've got all these, and like all these hospitals are just, and it's, you have to go to one hospital, you switch, you have to repeat the same thing. How do you see these networks basically just one, like it's like the internet, just like one big open network, and with AI on it, you've got data, and how does this may not be your expertise, but how does the blockchain fit into all of this?
Yeah, it's funny you're saying that. And blockchain is not my expertise, but what I was going to say is we have to use blockchain to be able to track all this data. And what I like about the blockchain conversation in healthcare is the ownership of my data. And like you said, what happens right now is we as a patient, we go into one hospital or clinic, and then we go to the next one. They have no information on it. But at the end of the day, that hospital and that clinic, and you might go to 5 different specialties in a year, especially as you get into geriatric care and things like that, they all own your data. And you have to go through this whole process to be able to get to your own medical information. But if we can utilize blockchain and we can use that centralized point of information where you are giving access to the medical companies instead of them giving access to you, and you can give and take access away. But at the end of the day, you control all of that. Yes, I think blockchain, there's a huge conversation. I think blockchain was huge, and then it's the conversation tapered. But I think in medical, it means a lot. And then when you talk about AI in healthcare, and you talk about like the EHR systems, and you talk about maybe even their lead generation systems and all this stuff, you have to do all this through HIPAA compliancy. And HIPAA compliancy, when it comes to data and it comes to information and it comes to AI, which is, I would say, a compliance person's nightmare in some ways, there's still a lot that needs to be cleaned up. But that being said, blockchain, I think I believe everything that I've read, blockchain is the answer. And that to me would be exciting. I'm sure for you're a provider, right? Are you a provider, right? You're
Yeah.
a physician provider. So this would make sense for you, even from being able to access a patient's information and understanding in totality with the information they have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because like the technology itself makes sense. It's just, there's just so many like rules and regulation, and especially with government involvement, nothing ever gets done in this big, gigantic healthcare industry. Well, I really love talking to entrepreneurs that are doing great works and ending it out. What are big challenges business face with integrating AI into their operations, and what practical solutions can help them overcome these obstacles?
Yeah, another great question. And there's a lot right now. And I think one of the big challenges we're seeing is similar to when the term cloud came out. And everyone's, you need to be in the cloud. What does that even mean? So I talked to several CTOs, CIOs, and they're telling me they're getting board initiatives or being asked from the board, what is your AI initiative? But no one even knows what that is. No one even knows what it means to have AI. No one knows what that initiative is. And so I think a lot of times, and even the CIOs, they're trying to figure out how can I implement AI? So you have this FOMO, right? This fear of missing out that your competitors are going to get this competitive advantage, but you also don't know what is possible. And so I think the biggest problem, and I say the biggest concern, I would say, is the art of what's possible and understanding and bringing, and that's where I come in, is helping people understand, what do you want? What do you think can happen? What if you had your ideal world of what you think AI could solve, what would that be? And is it possible? And then building from there, because right now there's so much misinformation, there's so much vaporware out there, that there's so many bad decisions you can make with AI. You really need someone who understands that environment. And the other thing that I'll say too, along with that, is even though you need to have an accelerated and aggressive look into AI, you also need to slow down. There's no need to rush right now. And I mentioned earlier, remember that the technology is changing so fast. It's so rapidly advancing. So you need to slow down, because you might make a decision now, but guess what? In 1 year from now, there's going to be more solutions to choose from. There's going to be better solutions to choose from, more holistic solutions to choose from. So I would say only implement AI if there's an ROI, if there's an increase in efficiency, and there's a business use case for it. Absolutely right now, don't implement AI for the sake of implementing AI. There's got to be a business reason, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, it's just like we alluded to earlier, there's so many entrepreneurs, you just experimenting with it. And earlier on, it was like ChatGPT, and it was very clunky, and and now it's like the text, the prompts are much more faster. Now you can do images and pretty soon you can do video. So it's just
Mhm.
fascinating how these technologies and how entrepreneurs can leverage these tools in their business. How can people find you and follow you and check out your work, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So my main medium of communication is on LinkedIn. I think that's the big business medium. And my LinkedIn profile, Benjamin Bohman. You can also go to, I just revamped my website, stratishield.ai. So that's STRATISHIELD.ai. That is another way. And I love having conversations as well. All the initial, if you want to talk about like initial conversations, just not from a in-depth scoping, but even from scoping conversations, those are all free. I think right now we're not at a point in AI to just start charging people for every bit. We need to come up with something concrete first, see if it's doable, and those conversations to see if there's something concrete or free. So you can always reach out to me as well directly through LinkedIn or my email, ben@stratishield.ai. But yeah, several ways to get a hold of me. But I love having these conversations. I love having conversations even with you, Chris, because this is what it's all about. This ideation. It's such a new, again, AI is old, but it's also new. And the way it's being adopted is new. And now we get to have so many fun conversations from, you talk about healthcare, and then there's finance, and there's education, then there's philosophy of, there's the psychology of, there's so many fun things to talk about with this. I just love jumping on and having these conversations.
Yeah, it really reminded me of just the internet and just AI reach mainstream when ChatGPT is just like everybody could use it. And yeah, really, and again, I love talking cutting edge technology. And for all the audience, be sure to give Ben's socials and follow, check out Stratosphere AI, see if it have these conversations, see how you can use it to in your existing business. And thanks so much for coming on.
Awesome, Chris. I appreciate it and enjoy the rest of your day.